There's nothing quite like the feeling you get when you conceive a fan theory and it turns out to be true. Marvel Studios' Ant-Man and the Wasp recently hit theaters, and for some keen comic book movie fans, that feeling became a reality, as their theories were proven to be correct upon the movie's release.
You're full of
Oh yeah.
In this video, we'll take you through just some of them. Don't forget to hit that old subscribe button. It's the best way of keeping up to date with all of Screen Rant's great new videos.
She seems more intense.
Search and rescue. In the first Ant-Man movie back in 2015, it was initially said that venturing into the quantum realm by shrinking to a subatomic size would mean being stuck there forever. Janet van Dyne had been lost there since the 1980s, having shrunk small enough to disarm a Soviet missile when Hank Pym's regulator had malfunctioned, rendering him unable to do so. However, when Scott Lang, inspired by the sound of his daughter's voice, used a Pym particles disc to return himself to normal size, thus escaping the supposedly inescapable quantum realm, it became apparent the previous theory was false. While Lang was in the quantum realm in the first movie, fans believed they had seen the outline of Janet van Dyne, the original Wasp, in the background, which in turn led to a theory that this year's Ant-Man and the Wasp would involve a search and rescue mission in the quantum realm to bring her home. Of course, the theory turned out to be true. In the sequel, Janet had developed a link to Lang after he'd been in the quantum realm, and confirmed she was still alive. As a result, the whole movie revolved around rescuing her. In the end, she was returned to the real world, back to her normal size.
You gave her wings?
and blasters.
Super-powered Janet. In the name of the movie itself, Ant-Man and the Wasp, if we were to go by Marvel Cinematic Universe tradition, it would have been easy to believe that the Wasp was going to be the villain of the story. Movies like Thor: The Dark World, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Avengers: Age of Ultron, Spider-Man: Homecoming, Thor: Ragnarok, and Avengers: Infinity War all referred to either the movie's villain or the events around which the movie's conflict took place, and that led a number of fans to believe that Janet van Dyne, the MCU's first Wasp, would return from the quantum realm as a dangerous, twisted, super-powered villain, having been imbued with a bunch of esoteric abilities and having her mind altered by spending 3 decades in the mysterious dimension. While the part about her being the movie's villain didn't end up becoming true, those fans who theorized that Van Dyne would have gained superpowers in the quantum realm were absolutely correct. Not only was she able to telepathically communicate with Scott Lang using quantum entanglement, she was also able to use the molecules around her to shape herself and remain stable, which allowed her to survive in the realm for decades seemingly without sustenance. She was also able to manipulate the structure of living organisms on the atomic level and prevent them from experiencing quantum displacement, essentially healing them like she did to Ghost. Additionally, she was able to remove the hallucinogenic effects of the quantum realm, as she did for Hank Pym.
It just sort of happened.
A great villain. Years and years of terrible and mediocre villains in the Marvel Cinematic Universe led to fans getting rather tired of Marvel Studios' inability to create decent bad guys. The likes of Whiplash, Malekith, and Ronan's underwhelming appearances in the franchise really brought the whole thing down.
What are you doing?
Which was particularly frustrating when you considered how much else it was getting right. With that in mind, and bearing in mind what we all saw of her in the trailers for Ant-Man and the Wasp, a number of fans theorized that Ghost was going to be awesome. In the comics, Ghost is a man whose identity is actually unknown, and he originally appeared as an enemy of Iron Man's, but the character received a gender swap in Ant-Man and the Wasp, with British actress Hannah John Kamen playing the character, a woman called Ava Starr, who's the daughter of Hank Pym's former partner Elias Starr. As it turns out, those optimistic theorists turned out to be right. Ghost was fantastic. She looked amazing, and the effects showing her out of sync with reality were very cool. Moreover, she was a tragic individual who a number of people watching would have been able to empathize with, which added an extra layer to her character, and in the end, even the good guys were trying to help her.
I was partners with Hank on a project called Goliath.
How big did you get?
Ghost and Bill Foster. The MCU's recent run of villains, the likes of Vulture, Hela, Surtur, Killmonger, Thanos, and the Black Order, revealed that Marvel Studios were actually capable of creating decent bad guys after a series of underwhelming ones. As a result of that, Ant-Man and the Wasp's Ghost was one of the characters that people were most excited about seeing in the movie. As soon as fans first laid eyes on the character, they started to come up with theories about her. One of those theories suggested she might have been the biological daughter of Bill Foster. He had previously used Pym particles to to grow to giant size and had used the name Goliath, but other theories merely suggested the two characters would be connected in some way. The whole biological daughter thing didn't end up being true, but those fans who simply thought the two characters would be connected in some way turned out to be right, as Foster had adopted Ghost when her father died in the lab accident that gave her powers. The relationship enabled Marvel Studios to draw some very obvious parallels between Hank Pym and his daughter, the Wasp, and Foster and Star, who was essentially his adopted daughter, which allowed the movie to continue with the theme of family we saw in its predecessor.
What'd I miss? We were just tiny!
The timeline. Given that it was released after Avengers Infinity War, which came out just over 2 months before it was easy to assume that Ant-Man and the Wasp would in turn be set after or during the events of the epic cosmic offering in the Marvel Cinematic Universe's timeline. Neither Scott Lang or Hope Van Dyne appeared in the ensemble movie, but that could simply have been because Lang was under house arrest and Van Dyne wasn't yet a fully fledged superhero, rather than because they were busy doing Ant-Man and the Wasp stuff. However, since Ant-Man and the Wasp was originally announced, fans theorized that it would actually be set before Infinity War, in spite of its release date suggesting the contrary. Specifically, it was theorized that it would be set somewhere between the events of 2016's Captain America Civil War and Infinity War, and that's exactly what ended up being true. It was set 2 years after Civil War, meaning it occurred just before the events of Infinity War, although, as it turned out, the mid- and post-credit scenes did actually take place during and just after Thanos' finger snap. We can safely surmise that the events of those mid- and post-credit scenes will directly affect the fourth Avengers movie, which will, of course, be the follow-up to Infinity War, and that those scenes have major ramifications when it comes to the imminent fight back against Thanos.
Maybe it's time we finished it.
Hank Pym in the quantum realm. Fans went into Ant-Man and the Wasp knowing that Michelle Pfeiffer's Janet van Dyne was lost in the quantum realm back in 1987 in order to disarm a Soviet missile. That much was clear after the first Ant-Man movie. It became apparent that the sequel would see her being rescued from the bizarre and mysterious place, and some fans even theorized that it wouldn't necessarily be the two younger titular heroes doing the rescuing.
This is awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This theory suggested that the heroes of old might get involved somehow, those being Michael Douglas's Hank Pym and Lawrence Fishburne's Bill Foster, who used to be Pym's lab partner and had previously assumed the Goliath mantle. Well, at least one of those theories came true in the movie. While Foster didn't really get his hands dirty when it came to Janet's rescue, the aging Pym headed off into the quantum realm to find her, utilizing a quantum tunnel creating device of his own design to do so. While Scott Lang and Hope Van Dyne were fighting against Ghost and Sonny Burch's henchmen, Pym faced a race against time to rescue his long-lost lover before his window of opportunity closed, and she was lost in there forever. Of course, Pym successfully found Janet, and the pair re-emerged safely from the quantum realm, at which point Janet was also able to reunite with Hope, the daughter she hadn't seen since she was just a child.
I like your plan, except it sucks, so let me do the plan.
The key to defeating Thanos. Ant-Man quite famously wasn't in Avengers Infinity War, and neither was the Wasp. Lang was name-dropped in Infinity War, with a very quick line explaining how he'd taken a deal to escape prison if he lived under house arrest after the events of Captain America Civil War. But he played no part in the movie whatsoever. Had Lang spent the entirety of Ant-Man and the Wasp stuck in his house, however, it would have made for one heck of a boring movie.
Dude.
So fans began to theorize that there might be some links to Infinity War in this film, with some believing the key to defeating Thanos would become apparent, thanks largely to the quantum realm being such a big part of the movie. While the main body of Ant-Man and the Wasp completely avoided referencing the universal conflict with the Bad Titan, the mid-credit scene appeared to drop a big clue regarding how Thanos' actions might be undone. Janet Van Dyne told Scott Lang to make sure he stayed away from time vortexes when he ventured into the quantum realm, which suggests that there are parts of the realm that can be used to traverse time itself. In the fourth Avengers movie, this will undoubtedly enable some of the surviving Avengers to travel back in time in order to prepare for what Thanos planned to do with the fully powered Infinity Gauntlet.
Who are you? You're the Avengers, man.
Victims of the snap. Given that Ant-Man and the Wasp was always going to be the first movie since Thanos snapped his fingers and wiped out half of all life in the universe, there was a theory that suggested the effects of the finger snap on Scott Lang and company would be depicted in the movie. Sure enough, that happened, and it came in the form of a mid-credits scene, with 3 characters turning to dust who we really didn't expect to. Hank Pym, Janet Van Dyne, and perhaps most shockingly, Hope Van Dyne all faded into nothingness while Scott Lang was in the quantum realm harvesting quantum energy, leaving leaving him stuck there as the movie came to a climax, as those three characters were going to be responsible for bringing him back. It's left Lang's role in the fourth Avengers movie completely up in the air. How is he gonna escape from the quantum realm? Who's gonna rescue him? And could those time vortexes that Janet van Dyne mentioned have something to do with it? All we can do for now is eagerly await the answers to those questions, and there's now less than a year until we get them.
She's been looking forward to this.
No kidding.
And that's the end of our video. Did you enjoy it? Did you have any other theories about Ant-Man and the Wasp that came true? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below, and please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Screen Rant for more great videos just like this one.